Hello everyone, welcome to drinknectar.com. I'm your host, Josh Wade, and this is the internet's place to explore the five senses of coffee and wine. I traveled 400 miles from Washington to Oregon to review some Oregon wine. Actually, I didn't plan it that way on purpose, but I drove over here for Memorial Day weekend to spend some time with family. Brought along some wine that I received for review from Duck Pond Cellars. Interesting connection between Washington and Oregon here is that all three of these wines, or these grapes, are grown in the Wahaluk Slope area of Washington at some Desert Wind Winery vineyards. There's a connection between Desert Wind Winery and Duck Pond Cellars. So we have three wines here to review, and we're going to start with the 2007 Chardonnay. This Chardonnay has 95% Chardonnay, 4% Semillon, and 1% Gewürztraminer. It's very yellow and straw in color. My wife behind the camera, she did a fantastic job. It's actually more of a yellow golden apple color than a straw color in there. So give it a sniff. Okay, so it seems really tropical actually for Chardonnay in there. I know this wine spent about 10% of the barrel lot spent time in barrels. And the other 90% was fermented in stainless steel. So and it's interesting getting a little bit of a heat out of it too. It's 15% alcohol, so that's probably why it's very high for a white wine grape in there. Let's give it a sip. Overall, it has a good mouth coating feel, but there is a really hot kind of stinging sensation on the back end of the throat. Obviously, the alcohol content's coming through. The acidity is on a moderate side of things. You do get some, I would call it some pear-pineapple combinations in there, a little bit of tropical fruit. So it's not real creamy and rich and buttery like an apple or a buttery Chardonnay that you would get that's been over-oaked. So it's got a good, decent flavor, but just drinking by itself, you might be a little put off by the alcohol. And that burning sensation. So definitely want to, pair this with some food and end up being a better combination. So the next wine we're going to do is the 2005 Merlot, and this is actually about, let's check the notes. It is 90% Merlot and around 10% Cab Franc. So I should be curious to see what the Cab Franc brings to this wine. Very purple and dark in color. Of course, it's purple because it's a red wine grape, but meaning that it's got that dark kind of purple color to it, more like a plum. It's about 70% opaque, so just a very little translucent to it. Let's give it a sniff. Okay, so it's actually got quite a bit of rich fruit flavor coming through. Not your bright cherry that you would expect in a lot of underripe Merlot. Seems like a very ripe plum or blackberry flavor, so dark fruits rather than red fruits in there. And you do get that hint of oakiness in there. I'll type more about the oak regiment in the notes. But overall, it's actually got a good pleasing aroma to it. Definitely not a wimpy Merlot in smell. So let's give it a sip. Okay, so I know this wine is less than $15, and overall I'm very pleased with what I'm getting in here. Those dark fruit flavors, come in fairly quickly and then dissipate, and I actually get really nice velvety chocolate, not like a baking powder, like a baking chocolate, more of a smooth milk chocolate flavor in there that comes through in the end. Probably from the oak regiment, but also from the typical Merlot varietal that's in there. There is some subtle brightness of fruit in there that a Cab Franc would bring. I won't go as far as saying blueberry, but I can definitely tell that there is that Cab Franc that's part of the mix and blend of this wine. Very impressed with the price-quality ratio that you have on this one. All right, the last wine we're going to review is a 2007 Duck Pond Cab, and it's 85% Cab, 8% Merlot, and 7% Syrah in this one. Much darker than the last wine as far as the thickness and richness of it. Really inky and thick. You really can't see through to the bottom of the glass, so I would almost call it 100% opaque on that. Let's give it a sniff. What is that? So the wine comes out kind of gamey and meaty and earthy in there. A little bit of underlying aromas of like a dark berry fruit. Not going to go blackberry on it. I can't quite pinpoint exactly what it is, but you do have some of that. Has more like a meaty gaminess in there. Not overly spicy. Some hints of leather. Really intriguing. It's way different than the Merlot, and really different than quite a few cabs that I've had in there. So I'm really intrigued to see what the sip is going to bring. The cab that this Duck Pond cab is not your big, bold, rich, thick, chewy cab. It's more like a mellow sipping cab. There's not a lot. It's got a great smooth finish. But the acidity is a little lacking. The tannin structure in the back end is not huge and bold. Seems to be, if you were to pick out the cream of the crop and then separate it out from, the average stock of fruit, this would be obviously more of that average stock. It doesn't have that, just that it factor, that dynamic fruit flavor that you would get in, more of your upper end or mid-range Cabernets out there. It's not a bad value of wine. I think this one also is, in that $12 to $15 range. Great for an everyday wine. You're not going to find anybody, turning their nose up at it at a party. But it just doesn't bring a lot of wow or pizzazz factor in there. But overall, not an unimpressive wine. It's just one of those average wines out there. So we're here with family. We're here with friends on a Memorial Day weekend. Thanks to all of our troops out there that always stand in harm's way to protect our freedoms. So we thank you for that. We often overlook it just with our parties and our barbecues and all of that. So we thank you very much. So hope you enjoy Memorial Day or any day with your friends and family. And remember to drink happy.